Hola everybody, so here we are again. I'm doing another video. This is the second part of section 5.2. On the first part we talked about what is a polynomial, what do they look like, and then evaluating them. So we kind of practiced a lot of the stuff that we'll see here, so this video should be really short. The first part is just kind of going over quickly, like just reviewing what I talked about in class yesterday. Degrees that are odd are generally S-shaped like this. So one end goes one direction and the other end goes the other direction. So odd degrees, again, are S-shaped. Their leading coefficients change the way they look. So if they're positive, it goes up as you go to the right. So as we go to the right, it goes up. If your leading coefficient is negative, you go down as you go to the right. That's the main things to think about with these. The number of bumps, my bumps. The number of bumps in here are determined by the you don't need to know this, we'll talk about this later, but the number of bumps are determined by the power. So if you have an x to the third, it'll probably look like this with 2 bumps. If you have an x to the 7th, it'll probably have 6 bumps. Or it could have less, but most likely it'll have 6, etc. So, again, you don't need to know that, but just in case you're wondering. Next up are even degrees. So even degrees, remember, are U-shaped, generally speaking. If they're positive, they both go up. If they're negative, they both go down. And with these, there are kind of 3 bumps on this one. Because if you have x to the 4th, you'll probably have 3 bumps. You know, x to the 10th, you'll probably have 9 bumps, but maybe not, but probably. And the same goes if it's negative. So what the problems might look like, they might look like this. What is true about the degree and leading coefficient of the polynomial function whose graph is shown? So we look at the graph, we notice that both arrows are pointed in the same direction, so this has to be even. So that eliminates A and B. It can't be those. We also notice that both arrows are pointed down. That means it has to be a negative number in front. So it has to be D as our final answer. Similar question down here. Again, we look at our equation. The arrows are going in opposite directions. That means it has to be, it has to be an odd function. Then we look at the arrows. As we go to the right, this one's going down. That means it's a negative leading coefficient or front number. So that's just end behavior. Really quick, I know, but just a little description so that you know. Again, super general, easy kind of idea of what your function looks like before you graph it. The other thing we're doing today is graphing polynomials, and we're just sketching. Really, this shouldn't even say graph. You know, just like if your art teacher said sketch this object, or you know, they put something in front of you and they said sketch it, you're not going to spend a ton of time on it. You're just going to quickly kind of get an idea of what it looks like on the paper. It's very similar with these. We're just sketching the graphs. We're not doing anything exact or anything. We're just trying to get an idea of what it looks like. So what we want to do with this is take out our graphing calculator. Maybe write down these steps somewhere in your notebook so you have them in case you ever need them. But yesterday in class when we did the evaluating, that's all of this. And we even used the table, you know, a little bit. Today we're just going to, instead of just finding the 1 point, we're going to plot 3 or 4 and then hit graph and sketch it. So that's all we have to do. So for example, there's our equation up there. So I'm going to go to my graphing calculator and type that in. Oops, there we go. Negative x to the 3rd plus 2x squared plus 2x minus 1. So, whoops, why did it, weird. Yeah, don't have a times there. Have a plus. I don't know why I did that. It's very strange. Anyway, so we want to make sure it looks right. That looks like what it's supposed to. So I hit second table, and then I can just use my table to plot a few of these points. For example, -1, 0 here is one set of points. 0, -1 is another one, 1, 2, and 2, 3. So -1, 0. So when -1 is x, that's 0. 1, 2, 2, 3. We'll plot 5 just to be fun. Let's see. So we'll plot a few of these, and then we'll look at our graph and sketch in the rest of it. So -1, 0, 0, -1, 1, 2, 2, 3, and 3, -4. And then we got to go to our graph. We just hit the graph button here, in the top right corner. Just graph, not second graph. Just graph. So that's an idea of what our graph looks like. You know it looks like an S because it has an odd power. You know it's pointing down as we go to the right because it has a negative coefficient in front. So we can just draw it in. You know, again, this is just a sketch. We're not trying to be perfect, but just trying to get an idea of what this graph looks like. Similar to if you're on a safari in Africa and you're trying to, and you didn't have a camera, you're just trying to graph some, or just draw a quick sketch of some of the animals that you see. It's very similar to that too. So here's another one. Here's our equation. There's no way I'm going to remember all that. -4x to the 4th plus x. Third plus x squared. Oops, x squared. I apologize for my memory being really bad. Okay, there we go. Good. So now we go to our table and write down a few of the nice points. Maybe like these 4 or 5, you know, whatever. I mean, there's not like a set number you have to graph. I would suggest taking at least 4, if not 5, when you do this, so that you can graph them easily. I'm just going to write them over here so I remember what they were. Okay, and then I can graph them. So -1, 0, 0, -1, 2, 2, 3. Oh, that's... What the heck? Weird. They're the same points as before. Huh. That's strange. Well... Oh, no they're not. There we go. Okay, so now we go to our graph. We just hit graph, and then we get an idea of what this graph looks like. So it goes way up, and down. So it looks something like that. And we know they both point down because there's a negative in front here, and it's an even power. That's quick graphing. Very similar to what we did yesterday, and hopefully very easy. We're just sketching, sketching graphs. So.